Hello everyone, this is Brett and thank you for tuning in. Today is a little something different. This is called CD Tag 2023. It is a thread going around YouTube, vinyl community, CD community, cassette community, whatever you want to call it, by Kostis from Greece. His channel is Lego Piety. I'll have a link to that down in the description below. If you're new to my channel and haven't subscribed yet, please click the subscribe button, and I look forward to interacting with you through the comments. So CD Tag is 20 questions from Kostis, just covering various areas of your CD collection. This was super fun. I'm a little late to it, but let's do it anyways. So 20 questions. The first one is, show a 2022 new release or reissue that you bought on CD. This is the latest album from Steve Vai. This is Inviolate. He has this hybrid guitar that has like a fretless bass on it. It has all kinds of guitar apparatuses on here. Really a great album. I've been a fan of Steve Vai since my brother bought the Flexible album sometime in the 80s at a garage sale. But there's a track here in particular called Knapsack where Steve Vai had surgery on his arm, and he did everything exclusively with his left hand because his right hand was in a sling, so everything was using, hammer-ons and pull-offs, and super cool. So that's my latest. That was a new release from 2022. Last CD that I bought, I just picked this up last weekend. This is Flesh for Lulu's 1987 album, called Long Live the New Flesh. Flesh for Lulu kind of started off as kind of a goth band. You may recognize them from some of the John Hughes films, I Go Crazy, Postcards from Paradise. Great songs. Late Nick Marsh on vocals. And this was a reissue that came out in Superfecta recordings, and it's digitally remastered. Yes, digitally remastered, and it has a bunch of bonus tracks. So this one gets harder and harder to find, so I picked that one up. All right, next up, the first CD you ever bought. This, I remember this like it was yesterday. So I knew immediately what this was when I saw the question. I watched other people's and they were kind of struggling to remember. So I was a little late. 31 years ago is not really late to it, but a little bit late to getting CDs and switching over. My main format, being a kid growing up, was like 45s and cassette tapes. Cassette tapes is what I collected when I was a kid and a teenager and through high school. And so it wasn't until actually 1992 when I first got a CD player. And I went into it thinking, I'm only going to buy things on CD that I can't get on cassette. Of course, that went away super quickly. And then I just kind of switched over to CDs. So the first CD I ever bought was the Red Hot Chili Peppers EP for Taste the Pain. And I'll tell you exactly why I bought this. Was for the live version of Jimi Hendrix's Castles Made of Sand. So this was a little single or an EP to promote the Mother's Milk album, which, at the time on MTV, their cover of Higher Ground was, the Stevie Wonder cover was gaining popularity. And there's a remix of that. It also has Millionaires Against Hunger. And then, of course, Taste the Pain, which was also on the Mother's Milk album. So, yeah. So that was the first CD I ever bought. And I remember that like it was yesterday. I could tell you exactly where I got it. And speaking of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I remember even before that, long before that, checking out their first, back when libraries would let you borrow vinyl records. I remember checking out their first album on vinyl way back then. All right, next up, show a CDR, a demo, DIY CD release. I have a bunch of stuff that would fit the bill on this, but I went with this one, which is demos from Jane's Addiction. This is called Song List. I remember finding this in the early 90s and being ecstatic because it had a lot of their early demos, including a couple songs that you just could not find anywhere else. One of them being Suffer Some, the other one being City, which, if you're a Jane's Addiction fan and never watched that film Soul Kiss, that song was in there. But there was no official recording of that other than on the video. So this was the first time of actually getting that. And then Suffer Some was, if you're familiar with the Triple X album, going into Pigs and Zen, there's this little segue, this musical segue that goes into Pigs and Zen. That's a clip of Suffer Some. When Jane's Addiction reunited and they released an album called Strays in 2003, they ended up re-recording Suffer Some, but there's nothing like that original demo version. So, Jane's Addiction song list. CD you last played on your stereo. This is Frank Sinatra's Where Are You from 1957. I'm a huge Frank Sinatra fan, thanks to my dad. All right, Various Artists compilation. This is called Orphe. So this is on the Project record label. Dark wave, kind of goth, ambient, all kinds of stuff in that realm. And the reason I'm showing this compilation is because the track listing is pretty stellar, and it features my band on here as well. So let's just do a quick rundown of some of the highlights on this one. John Fox, the original singer of Ultravox. You have Jansen and Barbieri, who were in Japan. Tones on Tail, featuring Daniel Ash and Kevin Haskins from Bauhaus and Love and Rockets. Unto Ashes, another band I play with, and then Audra. We have Peter Ulrich, who I talked about, I think, in my Vinyl Tag video, the drummer of Dead Can Dance. We have Roz Williams, Christian Death. We have David Sylvian from the singer Japan, and then Peter Newton, Michael Brook. Peter Newton was in Clan of Zymox. Michael Brook is this ambient artist, and killer compilation. This was the booklet on this. Let's just kind of do a quick little flip through there. The liner notes were written by, what's his name? Well, the graphic design was done by Timothy O'Donnell, who did some later, I think, 4AD stuff. But Neil Gaiman did the text for this one. And let's see, there's some pictures in here. Oh, look at that. You got, I think it's John Fox. And then look at that guy there right there. That's me from like well over 20 years ago, and then my brother. So this is super cool. This is Orphe, and I think you can still find copies of this one. All right, next up, best of compilation from one particular artist. So this is truly a great band I've talked about frequently. This is New Model Army from Bradford, England. This is their kind of greatest hits called Great Expectations. It's a singles collection, also on Super Factor Records, the same label as the Flesh for Lulu. It includes tracks from their beginning all the way till Orange True Roads. What is that album called? 8. Great band if you're unfamiliar. Post-punk. This is my signed copy when we had first supported New Model Army. I think we played with them a good 3 or 4 times over the years. Nice guys and a great band and a great compilation if you're looking for a kind of a gateway into their music. New Model Army. All right, next up, a CD box set. This is a great one. This is Miles Davis, the Prestige albums. Look at this thing. So that's all that's included on here. They all come in little mini LP replica sleeves. I mean, this is just great. I've listened to this so many times. I think I was talking about Miles Davis being the most listened to artist last year, and a lot of that was from playing these albums as well. So yeah, a great bargain too, because it looks, I think there's 15 CDs in this one. So if you can track one of these down, and if you're new to Miles Davis or need to fill in some gaps in your collection, highly recommended. A single CD that contains the artist's whole discography. I had a few of those, but this one jumped out to me, and that's Graham Parsons. So it's a split. It's one CD, but it has both of his albums on it. GP from his debut, and then Grievous Angel. It's 1973 and 1974. Grievous Angel actually came out shortly after he passed away. If you're unfamiliar with Graham Parsons, he started out with a band called International Submarine Band. Then he joined the Byrds on Sweetheart of the Rodeo, which is kind of their country album, thanks to Graham Parsons. Then formed Flying Burrito Brothers with Chris Hillman from the Byrds. Michael Clark, too, I think. And then did his solo career, released 2 albums, and then died in September of 1973. An incredible artist, one of my favorites, and this is a CD with his whole discography on it. Of course, just his 2 solo albums. All right, next up, a CD in a cardboard sleeve or cover. So this is a little cardboard digipack here. This is Mary Lattimore. She's a harpist, kind of modern music, does a lot of looping with loop pedals and creates all these textures. You have to hear her stuff. It's really beautiful. Mary Lattimore. Next up, a CD single. How about Bauhaus, Bela Lugosi's Dead? Now, you probably see the vinyl more than the CD these days. But this had, you know, of course, Bela Lugosi's Dead. It was released on Small Wonder Records, and then it had Boys as the B-side. Yeah, and it even has the original price tag. I got it in 1995 for $4, and at Rockaway Records. So if you're familiar, if you ever visited or lived in Arizona back in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, Rockaway Records was a record store in Mesa. Sadly, no longer there, but I got that there. Bela Lugosi's Dead. Next up, a double or triple CD that's not a box set. I went with this one, Gary Newman, When the Sky Comes Down. This is a triple CD of him recording songs from his vast catalog with an orchestra. 3 discs, which 2 of them is the album itself spread out over two CDs, and then the third is live video, so DVD. Highly recommend this as well. I love these orchestral albums. We have one from OMD as well, and really, really cool. I know there's a James one coming out some point this year that I'm really looking forward to as well. All right, question number 13, a CD that looks like a vinyl record. This was a tough one. I mean, to open up a bunch of CD cases to find one, but I knew this one was somewhere in a folder, and I found it. So the company Verbatim released these CDRs back in, I don't know when it was, late 90s. And if you look at it, it even has ridges on it. So if you run your fingers across it, it really feels like grooves on a record. And you see the inner label there. There wasn't much room to write on it, but you can see this is a Skinny Puppy's 1990 album, Too Dark Park. So yeah, super cool. I love these little CDRs. All right, next up, show a CD soundtrack. One of my favorite modern soundtracks. It's obviously no longer modern because it's over 20 years old, but Hedwig and the Angry Inch. If you're not familiar with the movie, totally recommend Hedwig and the Angry Inch. You know, for a modern, quotes again, musical, absolutely stellar. And the songwriting, John Cameron Mitchell, who starred in it, wrote music for it, wrote the movie. It's just a brilliant film. The soundtrack is like better than most bands' albums. It's so good. Midnight Radio is an absolute favorite. So there is a soundtrack on CD, Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Next up, a CD that comes with a book, or a book that comes with a CD. Cherry Red puts out these incredible compilations. I know I've talked about some in the past, but this is Revolutionary Spirit. It's the Sound of Liverpool from 1976 to 1988, and it includes tracks from Echo and the Bunnymen, Teardrop Explodes, OMD, The Laws, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Dead or Alive, Icicle Works, China Crisis, Pale Fountains, Flock of Seagulls, ton of stuff. And like all the Cherry Red books, they come with CDs in those sleeves, and then their liner notes in the book here are always great because it shows the original like cover of whether it was a single, and then it has some biographical information on the song and on the band. So I highly recommend these. This is actually a 5-disc set, and these are usually like pretty inexpensive to get, and they have them in based on different cities in England or different synth pop or Scottish bands. So they have definite kind of genre or geographical themes to them. All right, next up, CD with a live recording, so a live album from the great Manchester band James. This is called Getting Away With It Live. When James called it a day, they did a final tour, and this collected. This was a live show that I think was from the Manchester, when they played in Manchester, their hometown, and there was a live DVD release for this as well. It's just breathtaking. Such a great show, spanned their whole catalog up to that point, which included Pleased to Meet You. Tim Booth's vocals on this one, you hear waltzing along. One of the truly greatest singers in rock music. His shift just going from his normal voice into falsetto is just like so perfect. Just great versions of classic James stuff with some good deep cuts in here as well. There you go, live album. All right, next up, this is a CD with weird or non-conventional packaging. So this one I chose is from Mortice. This album is called The Grudge. I think it was from 2004. Mortice started his career in the band Emperor, and then he went solo, kind of in a genre known as dungeon synth, dark dungeon music. This album is more industrial realm, so more kind of in the vein of like Nine Inch Nails. But the reason I chose this for weird non-conventional packaging is the booklet is made out of PVC, so you can already start to see my hand through there. So all the pages are clear, and I've never seen actually a CD booklet like this. I mean, how cool is that? Yeah, this is Mortice, Mortiis, and he's kind of wears prosthetics. You can kind of see him right there. Yeah, Mortice. Let's see here. Most expensive CD. So we did a quick run through Discogs here, and coincidentally, I had a hard time choosing this one because for a local band, they're also from Arizona and friends of ours. This is Lycia with a line that connects. I was really surprised to see this as one of the for a single disc, not box sets, one of the higher priced ones there in the median on Discogs. And this is the version that was on the Handmade Birds label. So if you're unfamiliar with Lycia, I know I've talked about them extensively in the past. Dark post-punk band. And coincidentally, just today, they had made a post that you can actually get this as a 2-for-1 sale on their Bandcamp. So I'll leave a link for Lycia there if you want to actually pick up a copy of this. But as of right now, that is the most expensive CD that I could tell on Discogs. And I don't remember what the price was. All right. Number 19, a CD from a local band or artist. I just showed Lycia, but I was going through contemplating what would be a choice that would be interesting for you guys, and I ended up picking Gas Giants. So who are the Gas Giants if you were unfamiliar and were not in Arizona in the late 90s, early 2000s? After Tempe's Gin Blossoms called it a day in late 90s, the singer Robin Wilson and the drummer of Gin Blossoms, Phil Rhodes, ended up forming this band called Gas Giants. I think they were first called the Pharaohs and then Pharaohs 2000, and they had some conflict with that from what I recall. So they changed their name to Gas Giants. They released one album, From Beyond the Back Burner, and then the Gin Blossoms got back together. So this is a one single release as well. And I also have in a cardboard sleeve the single for the song Quitter. So Gas Giants, a local band. All right, last question, a mini CD or a mini disc? I had one that I couldn't find around the house, so I just went with this one from my band Audra. This was a Project Records promotional that was sent out to some DJs when our second album, Going to the Theater, came out. So it has the songs Cabaret Fortune Teller, There Are No Snakes in Heaven, and Midnight Moon Swing from Going to the Theater, and then it had What Your Eyes Had Seen, which was on our first album. 3-inch CD that went out to maybe 10 DJs. So this is super, super scarce. There you go. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave some comments. Let me know if anything was interesting in that list. Shout out again to Kostis from Greece. I'll leave a link in the description for his channel. Thank you guys for watching, and be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you soon. Goodbye.